Hello, I am Anthium. Welcome to TwoTales, and this is TwoTales Talks. Now, I apologize, this is actually about 12 hours late. I'm also just getting home from my work shift, bit beat, so I'll keep this short. But this is the fourth part to Tommy Talks with the TwoTales family. The specific topics here is we get to find out that Tommy really knows his cars, and we talk about Cloudy Mountain. Now, try to keep this short. Let me just say, I was one of the first to get a behind-the-scenes look at Cloudy Mountain, and I will delve into what I can safely talk about because I'm actually not supposed to talk about a whole lot, so I'm not going to. Yeah. But let me say this, as someone who's a mobile player and also someone who's been playing video games for decades now, there's a claim that these are just mobile quality games. I can tell you that while there are high quality mobile games out there, I'd recommend, for example, Sky Children of Light from that game company that made Journey Flow and Flower over the PlayStation generations. That's absolutely, the sound quality and so forth is amazing. But that's the earmarks that I saw in the Cloudy Mountain behind the scenes gameplay footage. There's a lot of clever thinking and mechanics that are involved. The sounds are layered and awesome, and the game just really presents as something that's very fun for a small group. But that being said, couple of things. Check out Open Every Box Pete's podcast. I was on there yesterday. I was asked what I thought about my conversation with getting a chance to actually talk to Tommy, and that caught me flat-footed, and I answered as best I could. So perhaps I'll do a video about my actual impressions about talking to Tommy and get some feedback from my family more than I already have. And also, because there's also a lot of talk out there that people who are for the Amico are shills and all in, and as you can see, I'm shilling like a villain right now. There's a sausage party going on the podcast. With that being said, sooner or later, Mrs. TwoTales is going to be on that podcast. And it will still be a sausage party because that's the manliest lady I know, and I love her for it. Boom. Now, anyway, I also, the reason I'm bringing up concerns is there's the belief that people that support the Amico have no concerns, and we're just going along with it, right? Yeah, sheeple. I'll be a sheeple. At least my name sounds cool. My point there is actually, I do actually have a new concern. It's not a criticism, it's just a concern because I'll tell you what, I'll talk about that in a separate video as well. Enjoy about the next 15 minutes of my time talking with Tommy. Hopefully you'll learn something about Cloudy Mountain that will just pique your interest in the game as much as it's become my #1 preferred choice on day one buy. All the best. Be foxy, guys, and I can see the stop button.
Let's just say that been there, done that. I'll just leave it at that.
So actually, I have a question unrelated to the Amico. So you mentioned you had that metallic orange Mustang Fastback, the
2+2 Fastback.
Yes,
car from Bullet. Yeah.
What happened to that?
I ended up selling it. It kills me to say that because I wish I would have kept that one. Because I do think about it a lot, and it was this really beautiful, like deep metallic orange too. And I had it jacked up on the back. I had the Krager rims, the dual glass packs on the. I mean, it roared. And then I had it was black interior, but then I put a GPS. And this is back when nobody had like computers, monitors in their screen. So this is going back 22 years ago. And so I had a Garmin mounted into the dashboard. I had like a $4,000 stereo system in it. So I took the classic car and just made it like modern and really beefed up. But the thing about cars from the 60s is a lot of people don't realize, especially like myself, I'm a big Italian sports car guy. So when you drive like a modern Ferrari and then try to go back to a car from the 60s, whether it's a Corvette or whatever it is, Mustang, the steering, like those cars steered like trucks. So I was like, whoa, I'm driving and you could try to tighten it up, and I put a smaller steering wheel on it, did everything I could, but they are, when you're driving like a, $350,000 race car, and then try to drive a $10,000 Mustang from the 60s, there is a big difference. And so, but that being said, you get used to it anyway. But yeah, and I'll tell you part of the reason I sold it is because, so again, I have a bit of a Ferrari habit, right? And my thing is that I've never ever sold a Ferrari. so I buy the cars, but I don't sell them because I hold on to them. So it got to a point where if I wanted to like take a certain car and I wanted to leave, it literally would take me 20 minutes to pull all the cars out and then bring the one out that I want and then pull all the cars back in. So I just got rid of everything. I had like Lamborghinis, Porsches, Ferraris, Mustangs. I had a Mach 1, a 69 Mach 1 Mustang, if you remember, Eleanor from the movie, right? And that was a show car. I didn't mess with that at all. That was all original, stunning, beautiful car. So I had one that was like the classic Mustang muscle car, and then the one that I just tricked out like crazy. But I always think of that orange 2+2 fastback. In fact, I was just up at the Monterey Car Show last August, and they had the actual car from Bullitt there, the Hunter Green, classic Steve McQueen. And I was looking at the thing going, I should have never got rid of that orange car. I loved it so much. And because it's your baby, right? And I redid certain parts, and I bought a part on eBay, and I replaced like little stupid things. I redid the chrome. It was so anyway, yeah, that's a bit of a sore spot for me. But someday, maybe when I have time, I'll recreate that car from the ground up.
I talked to my motorcycle. It's okay. I named him Jack. Unoriginal, I know. Jack.
Is that like Jack Sparrow? Is that like a thing for Johnny Depp?
No, like a Jack Lantern, like a pumpkin.
I
got it in about October 31st, and I've been slowly working on him, blacking as much out as I can. So I have mostly black with the hints of the candy burnt orange. I got nice little spikes on the front. I better not.
Look, my first car was a 1970 Maverick, but it was metallic blue with the black racing hood scoop.
I had a Maverick. I totally had a Maverick. I love that car. It was mine was a blue. It wasn't metallic, but it was like a kind of a darker blue. Not super dark, but I loved my Maverick. I beat the shit out of that thing, and I was in. I grew up in Massachusetts. I think I bought the thing for like $500. It was probably like 1986 or 87. Just graduated from high school, and I couldn't afford like a real car. But that Maverick was, and again, in Massachusetts, it snows half the year. So the trunk was like rusted out. It had holes in it, and I had to get the car. What do you have to get it like not smogged, but you have to get it. What's that? Inspected. Yeah. Sorry. We don't have that out in California. We have smog checks, but we don't have
smog here.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. And so it had to get inspected, and I remember it failed inspecting because it had holes in the trunk. So I'm like, son of a bitch. So me and my buddy, we had to we black duct tape underneath and around the thing. Then put a cover over it, like it was a fake card, because we didn't want to get it fixed. How do you get it fixed? And then we put fake carpeting over it, black carpeting, and then we loaded up the whole trunk with a bunch of like boxes and crap. And so when we went to get it inspected again, they kind of like, the guy opened the trunk and was like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like they didn't even check, So, but yeah, I love that Maverick. Shitty brakes on mine. I remember like we'd be like, because we'd do stupid stuff when I was young, and we would like, we would do jumps over at dirt ditches and stuff, and I can remember like just slamming on the brakes, and the thing would just start to go into a power slide. So but that's how we learned to drive back then, like on the ice. If you've never driven on ice, like these people in California, it rains and people like panic. Hell! It's like I grew up driving on ice. You don't know fear, right? You don't know fear until you're like trying to go up or down a very steep hill on ice with your car, right? That's pure terror.
Yeah, it is.
You don't know pure terror when you're going straight uphill in an 88 Mustang, and it's literally like an angle like this in the middle of winter, and the entire road is ice, and you happen to know that car is rear-wheel drive. You didn't make it up that hill. You were forced into a nice little U-turn down the hill and then back that way.
I don't want to fight.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to feel it out, It, like when I, because I do a lot of like I'll do go-karting, but also like real race car driving as well. And the reality is you don't know how far your car can be pushed until you lose the back end. Like when you're going around turns, you have to know. Let's take it simple, like in go-karting. Until you've spun out, you don't know how far you can take it to the limit. And that's really the difference between great race car drivers and, legends as opposed to great race car drivers, is the ones who always know they ride it right on the edge. Ayrton Senna was one of the greatest Formula One drivers of all time. And you watch his videos, whether he's driving in Monaco, Brazil, wherever, and it's just on the line of and sometimes, unfortunately, it was crossed, but he was one of the greats because of that,
You guys should watch the Isle of Man races. I don't know if you've ever seen them, but the Isle of Man races.
I'm not familiar with that, no. Is this motorcycle things?
Races over in England, and it's done through like a housing residential area. And then there's long stretches of the road. It claims lives every year because it's high speeds, as fast and as hard as you can go, and it's violent, but it's amazing to watch.
Now, do you ever watch the motorcycle, like the motocross stuff? Or like,
I do watch motocross sometimes.
The Italians dominate.
Yeah, they really do that. They really do that. I don't watch them too much because I'm not allowed to watch sports. Like especially soccer. I get violent. I get very.
There you go.
I'm going to cut in real quick because it's about 5, so I know you're going to have to get going. So just one last question because we didn't get to the Cloudy Mountain. So it's one right in your ballpark. Okay. So I looked up some of the old gameplay. Sound was very important, and the bats would mask the monster sounds and so forth. What can you tell us about the sound work for your new work on it?
For Cloudy Mountain?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's so cool. So I in fact, just this weekend, I was working on all of the different sounds, like when you go into like caves or castles and, different dungeons and things like that. So, having these, really, some are like super creepy, some you can like hear dripping, some are just like this hollow wind. So just really coming up with different environmental sounds because I want to make sure that because in Cloudy Mountain, there's a lot of like going in and it's all like generated stuff. So you can go back into the same place and it'll all be different every time. Like it creates the maps for you on the fly, right? And so a lot of times when you're doing that kind of, generative stuff, you don't want it to ever seem like, oh, I've seen that, if you have 100 caves, you don't want them to all sound the same. Some of them might look visually the same because you're using the same tiles for the floor, the same torch on the wall or whatever. So by changing the sounds and randomizing those sounds, it gives the gameplay a feeling like of unrepetitiveness. And that's really my goal in why I've taken so much time to ensure that a game doesn't feel repetitive, even though some of the visuals, if you've played it a long time, may. But so that's one of the big things. And then the magic sounds I haven't even started working on yet, but there's going to be there's some stuff in the game. In fact, after you stop recording, I'll share my screen with you and show you a bit of the game. You'd be the first person in the world outside of Intellivision to see this, and you can hear some of the stuff. So, yeah.
That'd be awesome. Do you have time for a few more questions, or?
Yeah, give me one or two more quick ones. Yeah, I'll try to be quick. I'm the one who talks long, not you.
Easy one. I found out there were blobs in the original Cloudy Mountain, and they were indestructible. Are they still indestructible? Do they still exist?
They definitely still exist, and there are going to be things that are indestructible. So yes.
Now, and one last question. I was reviewing Pete's videos and stuff for Cloudy Mountain. And I noticed on this map, there was a chain of 3 mountains that were in like this L shape, and there was a lake, and it was surrounded by mountains, and it sticks out like a sore thumb to me. So I'm like, are there Easter egg locations, like surprise locations? Okay, I think those are quick and easy. We can stop there.
Now, if you turn recording off, I will show you some of the game. But thank you for having me.